Hello, everybody. Can y'all hear me? Hopefully. Welcome to tonight's event. Welcome to From Christie's to SNL, the ABCs of NFTs. My name is Michael Faber. I'm class of Duke 2005, and I'm Senior Manager of Academic Technologies at OIT, and I run the Innovation Collab. About a month or so ago, I reached out to Amy Unell and said, hey, this NFT stuff is getting huge. Maybe we should do something together. And she suggested that we do this Demon Live thing. And I was like, what's Demon Live? And a few minutes later, we were on the phone talking to our colleagues and trying to figure out what we could do together. So I first want to just thank Demon and Duke Create and Duke Arts for working together with the collab on this. There's a lot of other collaborators that we have, and we'll talk about them at the end. And we will also make sure that we reveal the lucky winner of our raffle as well. I wanted to let everybody know that this is being recorded. It'll be up on Demon Live's episode page later on for anyone else that wants to watch it. I know a lot of people that are here tonight are coming either from the collab background or from the Demon background, or maybe just heard about this event and thought it was interesting. So if you're not familiar with Demon Live, it's Duke's hub for creative industries. They have tons of programming like this with lots of really interesting guests, and you can check out all these episodes on their website. And if you don't know about the Innovation Collab, that's Duke's central hub for learning about and experimenting with and building with technology. We teach classes, we have maker spaces, all kinds of good stuff. And I believe Nina is posting some links that you can check out both of those programs as well. If you guys have any questions for our panelists along the way, you can post those in the Q&A, not in the chat, and we will keep an eye on those throughout the evening. So I want to get started by introducing the two panelists. You guys have probably read their full bios, but so I'll do the abbreviated version and let them talk a little bit more about themselves. First, we have Nicole Sales, Duke class of 2012. Nicole is the Associate Vice President and Business Manager for 20th and 21st Century Art at Christie's Auction House, and most recently played a key role in managing the online sale of Beeple's Every Days, the first 5,000 days digital artwork, which recently sold for an unbelievable $69 million. And we also tonight have Carrie Able with us, Duke class of 2004. Carrie's a multidisciplinary artist working in painting, virtual reality, augmented reality, music, and poetry, often in combination. Currently, she's working on a solo exhibition for the Venice Biennial and is planning an NFT drop that she may talk about a little bit later. And you can check out her work on her website, carrieable.com, or Instagram, Carrie Able Art. So we want to talk a little bit about NFTs and all the associated crazy stories that have been happening lately. But I think before we get too far along, I think we need to level the playing field a little bit and create a little bit of a shared vocabulary here tonight so that we know what we're talking about when we keep saying these words like NFT and blockchain and cryptocurrency. So I've asked Nicole and Carrie both to kind of give us your best explanation of what all this stuff is. What is an NFT? How does it interact with the blockchain? What is cryptocurrency? And maybe in a way that, helped you understand what it is. Nicole, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Michael and Demon and Innovation Collab for having me. I'm super excited to be here and to be talking about the crazy world that we are living in right now, and very happy to have Carrie along board too. Okay, so what is this whole thing? So first of all, I think the most fundamental is what is the blockchain? So the way I learned about it and the way I think about it is the blockchain is a decentralized ledger that records and verifies any transaction that is done on that technology. So the way I think about it is like a big Excel sheet that is basically read-only for everybody. And every time a transaction happens, another line of code is added to the Excel, and it's there forever and anyone can see it. So an NFT, a non-fungible token, is the tokenized or the code related to any digital asset. So think of it as like a cell within the Excel sheet that points to any digital asset. It could be a visual piece of art, it can be a music clip, it can be a image of LeBron dunking, whatever you may be. It's basically the certificate that that digital asset exists. What is cryptocurrency? So that is basically just another currency that can be used to buy and sell assets. Ethereum is one of these cryptocurrencies, blockchain being probably the most popular one that you've heard of. Ethereum happens to be the most popular one in the digital art community.
Carrie, you want to take a crack at another metaphor that works for you, or other ways of thinking about this from an artist perspective?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I thought that was such great and succinct explanation from Nicole. I'll just touch on, from like the artist perspective, why the Ethereum is the most exciting aspect. From a art historical standpoint, with Ethereum, it's providing a way to track the initial minting of the piece. It's a way to, you know, see the provenance. So the art historians I've talked to get really excited about that, because it'll make it in the future much easier for them. And it also creates a way for artists to get, you know, residual payments for if their work sells in the future, for a percentage with something called smart contracts. So I think that's why Ethereum has been the most popular, because it has all these other elements that are super just wonderful for artists, not just like visual artists, but also musicians, to, you know, create and get paid for the work that they create digitally.
Thanks. Yeah, I think getting an understanding of the blockchain is really something that takes a little bit of wrapping your head around. Like, and one of the ways I've heard of it is that, you know, Ethereum is like money that you can transfer to people, but it has code attached to it. Or like, instead of the memo line of a check where you can just write like, this is for, you know, paying for my childcare. It could be a full program that is written on there, like actual code. And that code can include the metadata about what is the image, where does it live, who bought it, who owns it. And that goes in this token, this non-fungible token that cannot be changed or exchanged for something else, into the blockchain forever, for people to always be able to reference and check back and validate. Okay, so we have an understanding of those words. The other word that we've said a couple times is Beeple. So Nicole, what is a Beeple?
Sure. So Beeple is an artist, otherwise known as Mike Winkelmann. He's the one that created these everydays, which Christie sold in early March. And what the work was every day for 13 years, he created a digital artwork. And then this was a collage of all of them sold together as one work, one NFT. Since he's been doing this for so long, he has a lot of followers. There are a lot of younger or more emerging digital artists that follow him and really respect him. So it was great to be able to present this masterpiece kind of as the first real digital art work ever sold at a major auction house.
So you're at Christie's. Tell us a little bit about what your role was in that process, how you ended up facilitating the sale, how Christie's got the sale. I mean, what went on under the hood at Christie's to kind of, you know, change the mindset of a traditional art gatekeeper to say, we're going to sell a JPEG and we're going to put it up for auction at Christie's?
Sure. So a little bit about me first. I am the business manager for, among other things, all of our online sales for contemporary art. So we Christie's had sold in October a Robert Alice work, which was a physical painting on the wall that actually had an NFT component. So basically just the tokenized certificate related to the physical painting. So that sparked some interest among the digital art community, including Maker's Place, which is a platform for artists to sell their NFTs direct to collectors. They reached out to Christie's, to my colleague Megan, and she really worked to pitch this to the team. And as the business manager of the sale, and then Noah, who I work very closely with as the head of our online sales, we really took it took it full speed ahead. And we really had no idea that it was going to gain so much traction. Honestly, we have a very small, scrappy online sale team. So, putting this up, no one really kind of blinked an eye, to be honest. And then, bidding, as you saw, really skyrocketed, and the rest of the company got very involved, in a really good way. We had a ton of support. Everyone is really, really behind this movement. I think Christie's in general really believes in NFTs, really believes in digital art. The way I think about it is just another medium in art history. So I think people are going to look back on 2021 and say, this is when, digital art really started. The same way you look back and say, the Impressionist movement was, in the late 1800s, whatever it may be. So I think this is a real turning point for the medium.
And Carrie, as an artist who is involved in the intersection of traditional art as well as modern technology infused art and some of the crypto blockchain focused stuff, how has this massive big first time NFT sale through Christie's affected both the art world at large as well as your own experiences in the art world?
Yeah, I think, like Nicole said, I second that. I think that just bravo to her and her team. This will be remembered as a historical moment hundreds of years from now, really legitimizing digital art as something that is valuable and collectible and important in the canon of art history. And for myself, I've been doing new media art for since like 2016, and it's really the only places that we're interested really are nonprofits or museums or like experimental spaces, because there really were just such a limited way of being able to sell it. So there's this whole section of artists that are now seeing that there's a way that their work will actually be valued. And I think the first time I heard the word in like 2017, we started talking about in the sort of crypto VR space, the idea of digital scarcity. And they were like, that's what we need. We need somehow like to create something that is unique and digitally unique, and digital scarcity. And then the next year, 2018, everything crashed. And so I think everybody got kind of scared of blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, because it just all, went up and then down. And so it's really cool to see, it coming back again from some of those initial conversations 4 years ago. And it's really changed. And the fact that people that used to say, well, we're not interested in showing that or whatever, there's now I'm having trouble figuring out who to show this with, because it's like so many offers. So, and I know that's directly because of what Nicole and her team did, because they validated this medium, and I've seen it happen with some. So I can't assert enough, like awesome job, Nicole, and we're gonna remember this forever. So
that idea of digital scarcity, I think, is really interesting. And I think that's one of the core fundamental concepts of what's going on here, right? Because digital art has this double-edged blessing and curse, right? It's when you create something that is digital by nature, one of the core features of that thing is that it is duplicatable, right? And that is like a very freeing and democratizing thing to do if you're putting digital art out into the world. And so the problem then is the artist can't really sort of find any way to make a living off of that, because anyone can just take that Instagram post or take that piece of music that they created. And we obviously saw a lot of that with Spotify, like the amount of money that artists make on Spotify is hilariously small. But the flip side of that, of course, is that we're now kind of re-empowering some of the gatekeepers of the art world, right? And so again, Carrie, back to you again, are we kind of just taking away that one thing about digital art, that anyone can access it, that anyone can experience it by creating these NFTs and sort of focusing on them as the product, as opposed to these infinitely duplicable experiences that people can get just by looking at a JPEG or experiencing some piece of digital art?
Do you mean, are we taking away like the accessibility of it. Is that you
Yeah.
mean? Well, so I think one of my favorite examples for this is to think about, you know, the Mona Lisa, and so many people have seen it. Not as many people have seen the real one. But you know, there's still access to that image, right? But only, you know, but there's only one unique work. So the fact that something that's a digitally native practice, they're the ones deciding this is the unique one. So that doesn't mean that other people aren't going to see it like a copy of it. That just means that, just like the Mona Lisa, only one person owns the original. And so, you know, somebody could make a copy, like a almost exact copy in the same medium, and that still wouldn't be as valuable, right? Because that wasn't the intention of the original artist. So I think that's exactly how, you know, we're looking at this now. That the artist is they're minting a certain file, a certain piece, and that's the original. So I think that's what makes it confusing, is that the digitally native practices, and we have to like diffuse this idea of that if it is digital, that it's easily, you know, replicated.
Right. It's the Mona Lisa at the Louvre. The Louvre has it versus the one you can buy at the gift shop on the way out in a poster tube, right? It's still
Right.
the same image, but that one's not priceless the way that the one in the Louvre is, because that's the original one. And that's the kind of analog to NFTs that I think is really helpful to think about. It's like, it's the one that is minted. It's the one that has the plaque on the wall that says on loan from the Nasher collection is this piece of work, versus the copy that you can get at the gift shop or wherever in a book or something like that. Nicole, what have been some of the responses from collectors, galleries, museums? Obviously, Beeple is not without his own controversy. To have his work be the first, you know, comes with a lot of implications of that. What has been the sort of reaction post-sale in your world?
Yeah, sure. So I think, you know, I think in general, most traditional collectors are just genuinely interested to learn about this. I think if you're, you know, really interested in collecting contemporary art, you are interested in the next big movement and the next thing that you want to get involved in. So kind of like I said before, this is really just like another medium and another collecting category. We've seen overwhelming support from our traditional collectors, institutions, gallerists. You know, Christie's hosted an NFT 101 panel, and we had thousands of people, you know, show up for our existing clients. And I think it's really a testament to people just being super curious about this space and really wanting to get involved. You know, it's not without its controversy. I think when people don't understand something, it's very quick to jump to, you know, the naysayers. So I think those are definitely out there. But I think those are out there when any new movement started. So, I mean, you look back to the canons of art history, and this is not new. It's honestly, I mean, if anything really stuck, and if any art movement really stuck well, they had its fair share of controversy at the start. So I think it's a good sign that this is stirring so much positive discourse around this, honestly. And, you know, like I said, Christie's is really behind this. We actually just announced last week that we're all selling another NFT from the CryptoPunks movement. It's from directly from the creators. We're selling 9 CryptoPunks, which are really the kind of OG NFTs. They were created a couple of years ago, so we'll be selling those in our most high profile sale, in the evening sale in May, in mid-May.
That's awesome. Glad to see that it's continuing on, and there's a lot of growing interest in it among the, you know, the collectors, the museum type community as well. Had to say goodnight to my daughter. So where are we at here? I wanted to get into another area of sort of controversy around the NFTs, which is the big question around the sort of climate impact of NFTs. Without getting too far into the weeds on like the process when you mint something, right? But this is the key thing where there's a big environmental implication, right? When you mint something on the blockchain, it goes through a process called mining, and the block has to be solved. And what that means is that there are computers all over the world who are attempting to solve this block, because doing so rewards them with the currency. But the problem gets increasingly harder that you have to solve computationally in order to do that. And at this point, it's taking orders of magnitude more energy per block every single time. By design, it gets harder and harder and harder and harder to solve the block. And so there's this huge environmental concern around doing this. So either of you, I guess, what do you think about the sustainability of a practice that relies so much on major energy consumption, on the order of like a single minting could be like driving your car for 500 miles or something like that?
Yeah, I'll just quickly comment, and then Carrie can take over. I think the one thing I'll say about this is a really new technology. Blockchain in general is so new compared to other things. So, the longer that this is around and the more smart people put their heads together and work on this technology and NFTs and blockchain, I think the more environmentally friendly this will become. And just a second point, I think with minting NFTs, it's a very small part of the overall blockchain, community and transactions that, it's definitely a problem, and I think the community needs to fix it, but it is a small relative to all of the other transactions happening on the blockchain. And when you are minting something as an NFT and transacting, you can very quantifiably see the impact that it's having on the environment. And when you can see all of that data so clearly, that's when you can fix it. So unlike some other things that, are terrible to the environment, it's very hard to quantify. This is very easy to quantify, and thus I think will be easy to fix it the longer this technology exists.
And I'll just add to that briefly. I know Ethereum 2 is supposed to solve a lot of these issues, which is supposed to be, imminently coming out. And I also think that there's been, there's a lot of people trying to find something wrong with this because like they don't understand it, or, I think for me, I look at it like, this is why I'm not just minting a whole bunch of things. I look at it as like, if I'm going to do, an 8.5 foot tall oil painting, like people are used to that. So they don't say, oh, like you use this many layers of paint and you had to like the gas to ship it across the ocean. Nobody's like commenting about that because like they understand that, and that's been around for hundreds of years. So I think that people are always going to be quick to point out any sort of flaws in something that's new or something that they don't understand. And like Nicole said, I mean, there's really smart people working on continuing to make this better and better. And I would just say for any artists in the audience that are, interested, that they should treat it with the same, like effect that they would doing a painting commission, or, taking it seriously, not just, minting a bunch of things just to see what happens. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions about the future of it with the environmental impact. The Ethereum 2, I think, would be a great first step there. That takes some of that heavy computational power, and instead of that proof of work, doing the work of that computation to create the next block, it asks people to just stake their own existing cryptocurrency to form the next block, and that gives that immutable trust element there without necessarily having to do these heavy computations. So I'm definitely looking forward to Ethereum 2.0 as well. Carrie, I want to talk a little bit more about your art practice. Can you talk a little bit about how technology informs and defines your art, and maybe even a little bit about what you've got going on right now, upcoming projects, and you mentioned an NFT drop as well coming.
Sure. Yeah, thanks so much for the question. And I've always been super fascinated and interested with tech. Like tech and art have always been, the two things I was probably most interested in. And so it was actually at a Duke event 4.5 years, I can't even remember how, I think it was in 2016, where Duke asked me to host a dinner where I was like the art table, like there were different, and this was in New York. And then I met, who has now become a good friend of mine. The first time I met him, Nayan Ahmed, who introduced me to Amy, actually, from Demon. And we started talking, and he was a little familiar with my work. And then when he found out at the dinner that I had actually built my own app for my work, it wasn't that great, but I did it. And he was like, well, you know, I work at this VR studio, like you should come and just like check it out and check out our stuff, and I bet you'd love it. So I ended up spending a ton of time there for, you know, the next 3 years. I'm very, you know, good friends with all of the people there. And that really introduced me into the VR space. And so just having access to that equipment and being, you know, around so many innovative people where a lot of, you know, development meetings were happening, and just around that energy of people really introduced me to that. So I do VR, which is virtual reality, and augmented reality, which is when you see some of your own environment. So like Instagram filters are probably the most well-used form of augmented reality. So I have actually, because that's so accessible, taken some of my VR sculptures and imported them into creating Instagram filters, because especially right now, I mean, that's what's so accessible to people. And so then I also incorporate my music, and then of course with the crypto, it's not necessarily totally related. There's some people in the VR AR world who are not involved at all, but I mean, there seems to be, because of its digitally native sense, to me that always seemed like a really natural correlation to become interested in that and to see how that could be beneficial to the VR AR work. And then I also still do oil paintings. I don't know if Nina wants to pull up, I have some, there we go. Oh, thanks so much. So any students that are out there, so here's just traditional oil painting, which I do. And then I think coming up, we have a mixed reality. This is a mixed reality video of what it looks like to do a VR painting. So it's so cool. You're literally painting in the air. This is an Oculus Medium, which I did with Quest. And then you can 3D print what you do in VR and actually create objects from it. So that's one of the things that's really cool about VR. You can correlate all of these different elements. I use the VR sculptures in you know, music videos and Instagram filters. You can 3D print them, but you're literally sculpting in the air, which is so cool. So it's just like real sculpture, only there's no gravity and you can change the scale. So if you're going to be printing something out, you have to kind of imagine what would this be like in gravity, you know. And then Michael, did you want me to talk about, oh, you said upcoming projects. So currently I'm working on an NFT drop with a, oh, here, I'll talk about this for a second. This is a VR music video, 360. You can view it online. There was one of the little sculptures embedded in there. 360 videos are another really accessible way to reach people. This is one of my music videos this is actually an AR experience you can do on Instagram. So you can literally step inside the video. And I did that during the pandemic as a way to really like connect with people. This is actually a song about depression. And I don't know if you can see it because of its location on the screen, but this is a augmented reality experience that I did with this company called Arise, where you can basically place the AR work in your own backyard, in your own environment. And then it also has a music, one of my songs element to it. So yeah, so there's tons of different ways that you could, like the sky's the limit, and you know, music as well being sort of a digitally native practice now with the last, you know, 20 years with the way that the record industry is going. It's really going to benefit from this technology as well, I think.
And your upcoming NFT drop, I see Nina posted that. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Oh, sure. It's with this great company called Electric Artifacts, and they're based in London. And we're doing this. They've been really like wonderful. We're working on 3 different pieces that will be in the collection. And then I think you said to talk about the biennial. So, and then the other couple things I'm working on. I'm so thrilled to be in the Venice Biennial next year, which is just crazy because it's like a lifelong dream of mine that's happening now. Like I was like, that's been on my dream board forever. And they want me to do like all of the things. So I'm doing like a performance. I'm gonna have I want to make sure people are included. So one of the things I'm going to be incorporating is potentially like holography within the exhibition, so that there will be a holography performance, as well as like a live stream of a live stream volumetric capture of the performance, so that other people can kind of view that in another accessible AR, VR type of way. And then there'll be all of the elements like the paint, the two-dimensional oil paintings, VR sculptures, and then the headsets, as well as augmented reality triggers from the oil paintings there.
Awesome. A lot of congrats coming through the chat, by the way, on the Venice Biennial. One quick follow-up question that I saw come through as well is, what kind of software are you using for the AR and VR creation stuff, if people wanted to like try their hand at some of this stuff?
So you can kind of you can cross platforms a lot with the AR VR. Like some of the AR things that I have done actually started out like I created them in VR. So I would say if you're somebody that is really interested in getting involved in this, I'd say get yourself an Oculus Quest. It's $300, like it's standalone. You can do so many things with it, which is amazing. I mean, when I started out, I mean, I'm going to sound super old here, but you had to have like, it took me like the first thing that Nicole saw, I was setting up that thing for 2 hours, and I was like, there can't be any windows near it. I got to set up these little infrared trackers, and like, it was just, and now it's like, what? It's like, just, there's no computer. You can just put it, it's amazing. Some of the more high powered programs, you still have to connect to a VR laptop, but you can actually, there's a way that you can use the Quest with the VR laptop. So I would say anybody looking to get started, I would get one of those. And if you start getting more interested in some of the like sculpture that I was talking about, that I did with Oculus Medium, and you do need a VR laptop for that. And I'm happy for anybody that has questions. I get really excited. Feel free to DM me, message me. I love answering questions about this, especially students. So feel free to ask me anything.
Thank you. That's awesome. I want to get back into NFTs a little bit, beyond the art world in particular. You know, we've seen NFTs taking hold in a lot of different places. I think most notably is probably NBA Top Shots, where the NBA is now selling digital collectibles of you know, a Zion Williamson dunking on someone that can go for tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars just to own the little video of Zion dunking on somebody. Again, because they've created this digital scarcity, they're only issuing 10 of that video for you to be the owner of. Tom Brady, it was announced the other day, is getting involved in NFTs, a new company called Autograph. So obviously the sports world is interested in this from the highlights and, you know, collectibles, just like your old baseball trading cards and things like that. But where else do you guys see NFTs going from here? Where are other places where you feel they could be interesting to apply this technology to?
Yeah, well, I'll let Carrie talk about the music side, because I think that has a huge benefit, especially with the royalties to artists, just like digital artists. I think music, huge benefits there. But I think in general, NFTs have such a wide range of opportunity that exists. I mean, just going back to the blockchain technology and being able to record permanently at your transaction, and record permanently ownership and provenance not only just for art, but for any transaction, really. You know, being able to record buying and selling of goods and verifying that instantly, I think has huge impacts on the financial markets, particularly.
Carrie, do you want to talk about the music side of things? I'm curious about that as well.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't even talk about music projects. I'm working on such exciting music projects with people that I am just thrilled to work with. Arden Altinio, Tony Mann, who I saw just jump in the chat. I think one of the things that's really, really exciting as far as music is that because, especially this last year, touring has been, you know, musicians basically mostly make money off of touring because there's not much royalties. Like I know Michael had joked about the Spotify royalties. Guess what my royalty check for more than 100,000 streams is from Spotify? It's $40, which is like not even enough to pay for my Spotify subscription for the year. So I think what NFTs I think will do for musicians is like, you can, I mean, I think the sky's the limit. I mean, you can like, you know, have, you know, maybe it's a sort of a fan art piece, or like a, you know, you could have a, you know, like a preview to a song that's unreleased, or maybe it's a live version, or maybe, you know, the, it comes with a you know, a special concert, like everybody that there's just like the sky's the limit, I think, for this. And I think it's really a way for people to not just feel like they're supporting, you know, their, the musicians that they love, but it's also a way for them to feel like they're collecting, they're like getting something that could potentially be very valuable. And so it's wonderful. And I don't think we even really can totally grasp the implications of how huge this is going to be. But I think that like the way that the internet totally reversed a lot of things, you know, in the 90s, I think that we're going to see this come back and make what kind of decimated a lot of that creativity as far as getting paid. I think it's going to, we're going to look back at this moment and see that you know, we're attracting, music and art is going to attract more people because they're going to be able to make a living from it.
Yeah, I just want to add to that quickly. I think the transparency that exists with just selling and buying NFTs really connects the collector or the buyer to the artist in a much more personal way than it was before. You know, if you're going to buy, you know, a Picasso, you have, obviously Picasso is no longer, but a contemporary artist, let's say, through a gallery, you could have no idea. You could never meet them. The artist doesn't even know who bought that, you know. So I think this is, yes, it's a monetary transaction, but I think it has wide-reaching impacts to really foster a much better relationship between collector and end user of the art, whether it be music or visual art, and the creator itself.
Yeah, so I want to jump off on that a little bit in a different direction, because, you know, I think right now where NFTs are on the creator side of things, you have a very specific kind of techie aesthetic, or even like internet, like meme almost aesthetic. And on the buyer side, you have a lot of people who made a lot of money with Bitcoin, basically, or cryptocurrency in general, and have these huge wallets of cryptocurrency that they made during the 2017 boom. And to be honest, I don't have the data on this, but I'm willing to guess that a lot of those people, in fact, probably most of them, are white guys. And so I think when you talk about something that is like a tech-focused, or there's a component of technology to the art side of things, and there's a component of technology to the buying aspect of it. There's a lot of people, you know, being somebody who works in technology, like there are underrepresented minorities, historically excluded people, women, minorities, you know, first generation college students, low income students who are traditionally, historically have been excluded from these experiences. And I think we need to do a better job of incorporating them and increasing the diversity of this, so that it's not just all meme jokes on super rare that everybody is buying for NFTs. So what are some ways that we can push that forward? What are some ways that you see either developing or that you'd like to see developing around increasing diversity in this whole space?
Sure. So I think the whole Beeple sale in general and this craze in the last month or so has, you know, really lifted the legitimate nature of this as being an art form, and will inevitably lead to more diverse creators coming into the space. I think yes, it's a lot of white guys, and yes, it's a lot of white guys buying it. But I think the popularity inherently will make it more diverse. So I think, Christie's, we have things in the pipeline that will speak to this. And I think it's a really important issue. And I think just like other art movements, I think there are women, for example, women artists are far underrepresented in contemporary art galleries today. So this is a wide ranging issue that I think, in general, Christie's is really working hard to support.
So I have to say, I almost wore my Ada Lovelace shirt today. That we I think she would be so proud. Okay, so she's the first person to envision that numbers could represent ideas. So and I think we forget how many women were pioneers because they were, they're not as well talked about, or and that once something becomes very profitable, then they kind of get pushed out. But I mean, there were a lot of female pioneers that are because so anyways, I just had to bring that up because I was this close to wearing it. But I think she would be so proud of the fact that not just representing ideas, but the infusion of tech and creativity and the decentralization. And so yeah, but I'm really excited to have people like Nicole who want to work with female artists. It definitely I can say it is a challenge because you're continuously kind of undervalued and you have to work twice as hard for half as much. But I think that what it takes is women making themselves visible to, and that's why I'm so passionate about talking to students and talking to emerging artists and supporting emerging artists, because if they see you doing it, then they know that it's possible and that they can also reach success.
Perfect segue, Carrie. Thank you for teeing me up. I wanted to talk a little bit about, before we get to a couple of audience Q&As, if we have some time, I wanted to talk, we have a lot of students on here right now, about your Duke experience, how you ended up where you are now. What experiences at Duke did you guys have that helped you get to this point in your career? What are some tips that you think you would share with Dukies about, what you did when you were at Duke, things you took advantage of, the kind of most important stuff, takeaways for Duke students who are listening today?
Sure, I can start. I tried to get involved in as much art-related programming as I could. I think there is, just looking at the websites and things now and through Demon, there is a plethora of more opportunities today than there were, 10 years ago. But I think, I got involved in the Durham Art Guild, which is the downtown art gallery, which was great. I loved working there. I worked at the Nasher. I did a couple internships. I did the Duke of New York summer semester, which was really great. A lot of, living with a lot of other Dukies that were also interested in the creative field was really inspiring. And then post Duke, I think the alumni network is unbelievable. I mean, Carrie and I didn't know each other at school. I met Carrie at a Demon event, I don't know, 4 years ago, something like that. And, here we are talking on a panel. So I think, the Duke community doesn't end when you graduate. It's honestly just grows exponentially. So I think really tap into that. One thing I honestly wish I did more of while I was in school was take advantage of all the amazing speakers that came to campus, and in all fields. I think I was kind of focused at Duke. I knew what I wanted to do, and I followed that train on the one-way path, and kind of didn't look at all the trees around me. So I think that would be one piece of advice I would give to current students. For example, I wouldn't have met Nicole without Demon. So thank you, Demon. That didn't exist when I was in school, and that is such a great. I mean, they do such great events. You meet so many great people. So I would say, again, it doesn't stop
with school, like continue connecting with alumni. And I'd also say, you know, the more that you give, so like when you have something to like, then the more that you'll, you know, get back. And the passion of the Duke community is just amazing. I mean, like, so just continue staying involved. I actually got kicked out of the visual art distinction program. And so I don't know if I'm the best no, I'm just kidding. But no, true story. So I didn't get to have a show, but I had Pedro Lash, who was still there. I was so fortunate to have his first year was teaching there, was my last year. And he was just so wonderful. And I had an independent study with him, and he was like, just channel your anger into a body of work. And he was just so wonderful. So I still keep in touch with him. And, you know, he really helped me envision what the day-to-day life would be like to be an artist and how difficult it would be, and just some very practical things. And then I also just want to mention, yeah, like the, so if you feel like you're not having the best Duke experience, that doesn't mean that it's not a really valuable network. It's not, you know, like you can mess some things up and not feel like you've done everything right. And it's still just such a wonderful community. And it actually gets funny 20 years later. Like now it's hilarious. Like I don't feel bad about it at all. Like, it's like, see, look what I've done. But like, yeah, so keep in touch with all those Duke alumni and check out the Demon events.
The arts was a different experience in the early 2000s when Carrie and I were students at Duke. But I think there's a lot of great things for students to get involved in. And I would be remiss, Nicole and Carrie both missed the collab when they were students. So I would add that to the mix for a little bit of technology flavor into what you want to learn. I think we have some time for some audience questions before we get to the end here. Let me see if Nina has queued up a couple for me. Okay, so yeah, we'll make these somewhat short so we can get through a few of them quickly. A lot of people have asked about the bubble. Are we in an NFT bubble? Is this a speculative bubble? What's the likelihood that we're in a bubble? Nicole, maybe you have some thoughts on that.
Sure. Well, what I would say to that is there are several speculative markets in the art market. Trends come and go. I think this is definitely a craze right now. I think there are just like any bubble and just like any art trend, whether it be a certain artist gets really hot or a certain movement of contemporary art gets really hot, whatever it may be, it will go down. But that being said, when it subsides, you know, either a lot or a little, there will be the really great artists that survive and stay relevant and come to the forefront of art history. So I think, kind of like I said in the beginning, this is definitely the start of a new medium. This is not going away. NFTs in general are not going away. Digital art is definitely a medium of contemporary art worth collecting. That being said, the nature of it is so decentralized that it enables everybody and anyone to mint whatever they want and sell it. So I think, unlike a lot of other art movements that currently exist, there's not institutional critics to validate things. There's not galleries to kind of help you discern your eye. So I think from a buyer perspective, which is what I would tell any art buyer, is buy what you like, not what you think is going to be a good investment. A plus side if it turns out to be that way, but in general, art, you should buy art because you like looking at it.
Carrie, how do you mint an NFT, or where can we go? Where can somebody learn about that process in more detail, or how did you learn about that process?
Yeah, so I first initially learned about it like I was talking about in like 2017 is when I first really learned about it. But I think Nicole and I had both mentioned Rarible is a place that's an open platform that anyone can go to and, you know, learn how to mint something. But again, I wouldn't just because you mint an NFT doesn't mean it's going to sell. And you do have to have some Ethereum to pay for what's called the gas fees. So I wouldn't just, you know, mint just anything, you know, but it could be an interesting thing, you know, to try and to learn yeah. And I just wanted to talk to you were saying about the bubble, I think the most important thing here is that this is legitimizing digitally native practices. So whether or not it goes up and down, because it's going to go up and down, like it will, but I think we'll look back and this will be a moment that will be remembered as legitimizing digitally native practices.
Trying to get through a couple more here. There's a couple questions that are kind of in the similar vein of like, what is this going to do to museums? How do you display an NFT? Is this going to put Christie's out of business because there's this decentralized nature of like being able to just skip the gatekeepers and just have this buyer-seller relationship through this decentralized platform?
Well, I don't think it's going to put us out of business just yet. But thank you for that question. I think, I think kind of like what I said before, I think Christie's gives our kind of stamp of approval and justification of this market and this art. So, yes, you can mint whatever and hope to sell it, but Christie's exists because people who buy through Christie's trust that we are curating what we're selling and we're picking things that we believe have value, but also have significance in the general market and the art community and are important examples of this medium and important artists that traditional collectors and buyers should be aware of. So I don't think it'll put us out of business. Your question about displaying it and what this does to museums. I mean, there are museums displaying digital art now, whether it's on a projector that was made 50 years ago, or, it's on a much more robust technology. There's tons of artists doing new media stuff, whether it's in light, whether it's in sound. So I don't think this has really any adverse effects to the current museums, the way that they work. And I also think that there definitely are digital art museums popping up that are displaying, so digital only museums that are displaying great examples of digital art.
Thank you. I might have paraphrased that question a little bit, but I'm glad you took it in stride. And I agree that I don't think Christie's going to be cut out of this. Sunny Lee asked, curious about how selling NFTs work with copyright, if they're related at all. When a work is owned, what are the conditions of that ownership? Who sets those conditions? There's a lot of questions about copyright also that I'll add to this around, there's no check at the front end of minting an NFT, right? So there is no way for somebody way to prevent somebody from just going and pulling something off of Instagram that I thought was cool and minting it myself as my own and selling it as an NFT. So what issues around copyright and ownership? Carrie, maybe you can take a crack at this one if you have any thoughts.
Sure. I mean, it's kind of, I think of it as the same way as, I could, take the same bar of music and like put it in a song, but like, is that going to make people respect what I do? Is that going to make people want to listen to my, no, like they're going to be like, she just takes this from that. And, so like, that's not going to make anybody have any interest in you. So I'm sure maybe somebody's doing that, but I mean, what you really like, the NFTs are a tool to, make a digitally scarce sale. That doesn't, just by using that tool doesn't mean that people are going to value what you've made. And so it will actually really hurt you if somebody was going to do something like that, because then, they'll know not to take this artist seriously because they're just, and then not only that, but you're like out those gas fees that you had to put up to mint it.
Right, those are not cheap. Ethereum, I think, made an all-time high today. The value of Ethereum is going through the roof. So the gas fees are the costs to mint it, and those are not cheap. Let's see if I can squeeze one more. Anything you guys could recommend in terms of other resources or places to learn more, or things that people should do to kind of like dive more deeply into this field? that you would leave people with tonight, to kind of, if they're like jonesing for more after this session is over.
I think, I mean, from the market business side, I think there is more than enough content being generated from every news source right now. So I think it's always best to read several different opinions. You know, the naysayers and the supporters. I think it's really important to understand what the other guys are saying. So I would just encourage you to read as many articles that are coming out. You know, Bloomberg, Journal, Time. You know, everything is really talking about this from every angle. You know, from the financial markets angle, from the art market angle, music. You know, there's a lot of different stuff going on. So to stay relevant and stay in the conversation, that would be my number one suggestion.
And yeah, I second that. And then I would say, just from the artist perspective, I would say, you know, if you're building an audience, like social media is really important. So, I mean, even if you hate doing it, like if you're an artist, you just kind of have to put yourself out there, keep, you know, building your audience. I'd say, you know, right now, currently, like Instagram is kind of more where the art world is. And then I think Twitter, which I am not as big on, but that seems to be more of like the crypto world. So I would say, like, find people that, you know, follow some of the artists, you know, that you know are doing crypto, and then, you know, see who they follow, like follow hashtags on, you know, crypto art, or and just kind of get involved, and yeah, again, read as much as you can, start building an audience, putting your work out there.
And just really quick, sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
I just saw one question in the chat that I just wanted to clarify about royalties. So basically, what it's basically built into the smart contract. So when you resell something, the industry standard is 10% of the secondary market fee. So if you know, Carrie sells her music and I buy it directly from Carrie, and then if I were going to then sell it to Michael again, Carrie would get 10% of whatever Michael bought it for from me. There are some loopholes in that right now, and it's not perfect, but again, the technology is really new, and I think the more smart people work on this, the better these smart contracts will become.
Right. That's great.
Michael, can I add something to that really quick too?
Please.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and this is really cool. Okay, so like, let's say that you're a producer and you have, like, you know, or you're making beats or something, like, so that is something where you could sell that to someone, and then you know, again, like, set the 10% royalty, and then let's say that becomes huge, and then after you die, like, your kids still get that 10% royalty if it, like, gets really popular and then it sells. So it's also like creating sort of like generational wealth that hasn't been, you know, happening for, so anyways, just wanted to add that.
No, that's really important. And I think that's like, there's so many implications of this tech that I think are just starting to get uncovered. These smart contracts are really interesting, the things you can build into them, how we can sort of play that out in the long term. So there's obviously a ton of stuff happening right now. There's a ton of information. Obviously, the fact that we had such great attendance tonight, a lot of people with really great questions. I wish we could get to all of them. There's about 25 open questions on here and way more in the chat as well. Speaks to the kind of moment that we're in. So I just want to thank you, Carrie and Nicole, for a really interesting conversation tonight. I hope that if others are interested in carrying on the conversation, that they find those pockets of places that are happening around Duke and elsewhere to continue to do that. And we do have one final order of business, which is that we are going to be providing a Apple gift card. Nina, I don't know if you've got the slide queued up here, but oh, it's already there. Catherine Harris, congrats. Hope you all are here tonight. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. And I just wanted to wrap up by thanking all of our collaborators on this event tonight. We've got a big graphic that shows everybody that helped us spread the word and get the buzz going around this event. So really appreciate everybody that helped share this. And finally, one more big thank you to Nicole and Carrie again for talking us through all this stuff. I hope you all have a great night tonight, and see you at the next one.
Thank you so much for hosting. It was really fun.
Thank you for hosting. Thank you for having me. It was fun.